Welcome to the Nightmare Zoo. Subscribe, or I'll start answering your phone in your voice.
Well, hello there, you delicious little hiker thing. Are you lost here in the Nightmare Zoo forest?
Okay, nobody move. Oh my god, a dog man. S-H-I-T. Maybe he won't see me.
Welcome, human snacks. Click that bell, or I'll dig up your backyard.
Warning. What's living beneath Yellowstone is no longer dormant. The first rays of dawn cast sickly, sulfur-tainted light over Yellowstone's morning steam, curling and wavering like tired ghosts climbing into the cold air. Even in the growing brightness, the place felt suffocatingly alive. The earth shuddered beneath my boots, as though threatening to revolt, threatening to open and swallow us whole. I should start with who we are. My name is Rose Harper, and I was summoned here 14 days ago by my mentor, Dr. Tobias Monroe, seismologist. Pale and frantic, he'd contacted me with one skeleton of a message. Something's wrong. Beneath the caldera, something's stirring. The words felt like a curse. When I arrived at the research station, perched near Old Faithful's shadow, I found Dr. Monroe halfway to collapse, his face drawn long like he'd seen the inside of death itself. He was examining newly downloaded ground-penetrating radar scans, holding his breath as though the slightest exhale might rupture reality. That scan he'd labeled it, Sector BR12. Beneath the superheated aquifers and rock layers, the radar revealed a cavernous void, a black hole so vast it should not exist. Mushrooms of crystalline growth inside, like hive-building fungus, but this was stone. Something old and inimical had hollowed it. The cavern's expanse defied physics. The readings indicated structural integrity beyond understanding. And most terrifying of all, there was something living in the void. You'd never hear a creature like that, not at first. But when you're down there in the echoing dark, the real sound is the absence of sound until it breaches silence with a slime-wet crack. And then you know. I joined my mentor and our small team, Dr. Ari Koval, a biologist, Jason Nguyen, a geophysicist, and Harper Singh, a tech specialist. Our goal, drill a narrow borehole to the cavern, maybe drop a camera. We assembled in the cramped steel shed atop the geyser basin, machines humming above the ground fissures. Windows rattled softly, as if something underneath was pounding rhythmically, demanding release. I remember the moment Ari lowered the fiber optic camera into the borehole shaft for the first glimpse. The feed crackled, waterlogged rock, creeping roots, and mineral deposits. Then a dark expanse, like night cast in stone. And for the first time, something moved. A subtle convulsion, like a throat clearing. Then tendrils of slick, mud-black organic tendrils slid into view, curling around the lens. They pulsated, shifting with a sickening grace, vein-like ridges crawling across their fleshy surface. I felt sick. I looked away. The others leaned in. "Hey, the bitrate's dropping," Harper called. "It's something's covering the sensor." The camera blinked out. When we reeled it back, the lens was smeared thick, viscous, smelling like fermented entrails and brimstone. Ari gagged. The stench never left me. That night we debated whether to pull the plug. Toby argued for caution back away and monitor remotely. But the cavern shifted. Our seismic instruments began to pick up low-frequency rumbles, like immense organs throbbing beneath the earth. Every step on surface cracked with a groan. Dr. Monroe was convinced whatever was down, there was awakening, learning. He said, his voice trembling, "This isn't just geothermal. It's alive." Still, science demanded answers. We had to know. 3 days later, possessing more bravery or stupidity than sense, we bored further down. The drill bit shattered through rock, inch after inch. Harper oversaw the feed. Jason monitored pressure. There was none. It was vacuum, a terrifying silence beneath kilometers of rock. At 27 meters, the feed dropped to darkness again. Harper flicked on the light. What glared back wasn't rock, but faces. 1,000 pale humanoid visages pressed against the walls of the cavern, as though grown from stone and mud. Mouths slack, eyes wide-lidded, silent screams frozen mid-rictus. The drill scraped them away, and the faces crumbled like brittle death masks, tumbling free as fragments of bone dust in our shaft. Jason cursed. Ari gasped. I looked through the hatch, nauseated. Run! I yelled, but it was too late. From the depths came a low tide of sound, a rasping exhalation, echoing upward like the last expelled breath of a corpse. Then more faces. Behind the broken fragments, new ones formed, glistening and wet. They pressed with intention, advancing. Our drill bit screeched, stalling. Harper tried to back the bit out, but something dragged it down. The casing shuddered. Suddenly, pressure spiked. The shaft exploded open rock fragments, and sludge flew upward, hitting us like bullets. The casing popped free. The drill collapsed into the void, taking part of Jason's forearm. He screamed, an animal's fury, and collapsed against the wall, the blood hissing under pressure. We scrambled back, dragging him out. The shaft gushed with oily black muck, steaming and acrid. The faces sticking to the walls twisted, smiling with hollow, broken mouths. They lifted off, rising in a slow, obscene dance, melding into a lurching mass. We ran toward the surface. We emerged into chaos. The ground around the station had upheaved. Fissures cracked open, exhaling fetid clouds. Geothermal vents had pumped scalding mud and geysers of sludge into the tree line. The air was dense with steam, and the stench of fresh earth opened in catastrophe like hell exhaling. I looked at Dr. Munro. He knelt, crying. His life's work had exploded into grotesque imminence. He said, voice quivering, "It's coming up." We fled into the Yellowstone backcountry. Jason trailing blood, Ari carrying equipment, Harper fending off hallucinations. Every step the earth trembled. We passed pools of boiling water, now blackened, roiling with viscous life. Steam curled upward, forming shapes. Twisted limbs, veterinary spiders with faces, elongated hideous phalanges that reached for us. That night, we camped under trembling trees. You could feel the ground quivering, like a creature pacing underground. The steam from nearby fumaroles hissed and spat, weaving in the firelight like serpents. At the edge of fire glow, I thought I saw limbs, just one, gray like drowned wood, jutting from the black forest. It moved. We huddled in silence. Jason moaned, his hand wrapped in blood-stained bandages. His skin was pale, shock pale. Ari whispered incantations beneath her breath. I held my flashlight like a weapon. No one slept. When the moon hung high, the air rippled with noise. Not earth tremor this time, but soundless motion. I pressed my ear to the ground, heard something scurrying beneath the lone thin, brittle cracks as many-fingered swarms slithered. Something burrowed shallow. Then thuds on the campsite edge. Branch snaps. A breath. Our hair stood on end. We're not hiding, I whispered. We go. We left the fire behind and slunk through the dark. Under our boots, the forest groaned, trees rattling like bones. We saw shapes among the trunk's dark silhouettes, emaciated but human-shaped, with lolling heads and vacant eyes that flickered in the starlight. One moved, then another. Soon dozens. We ran, vines reaching for our ankles, choking us. Their limbs thin as stick, but strong as steel clawed at us, pulling at our clothes, drawing us back. Ari screamed as one hit her leg. I yanked it off. The bark-like skin cracked open, revealing fleshy, bruised muscle and pale bone beneath. It tasted of iron. I fell, scrambled up, leaving a smear of blood. We burst into a clearing, and there it was, the beast. It rose from a fissure in the ground, a towering shape of mud and stone, height of redwood, a malformed colossus, whose bark-cracked limbs dripped boiling ooze. Face came last, a mass of mouths too many, twisting open, releasing howls and slurping noises that echoed through the basin. Each mouth chewed at the air, lips flapping and cracking, some snapping shut with the crunch of something between them. It reared, seeping sludge and spittling gore. You don't see something like that without understanding the fragility of your own flesh, the tiny possibility you are ever in control. It surveyed us with the coldness of oblivion. But we were alive. Harper grabbed Dr. Munro's notebook. It was the only thing left. The creature's bulk moved. We ran. The ground beneath bucked and cracked, then swallowed the clearing in a rolling collapse. We tumbled down a ravine, mud and water racing past, limbs dragging, gasping. I remember thinking, everything alive beneath this place is dying. And yet, something monstrous loves, and it's moving upward. We rolled to a stop at the edge of the Firehole River. Blood and sludge painted the world in nightmarish colors, dark water, swirling with foam and gristle. Silence closed in heavily. We looked at each other. Jason, Ari, Harper, Toby, and me. I swallowed, shaking. We have to warn them, I said. Tell the park, everyone. But Toby shook his head, pulling his hat down. What can they do? It's unstoppable. I stared at his face, ashes in his eyes. Somewhere inside, we all knew this was only the beginning. The river carried us for what felt like hours cold, biting water dragging us downstream, slamming us against half-submerged rocks, tangling our limbs and roots. It felt almost deliberate. By the time we crawled onto the muddy bank, it was nearly dawn, and Jason's screams had faded into weak whimpers. He was pale, lips almost blue, the crude bandages on his mangled arms soaked through with blood. Dr. Munro knelt beside him, muttering half-broken apologies as he tried to staunch the bleeding. We have to get him to help, I whispered, my voice cracked. We can't, he's not going to make it. We can't go back, Ari said, her eyes wide, darting around the forest as if expecting something to slither from the shadows at any moment. Don't you get it? It's everywhere. It's in the ground. The earth trembled beneath us. Not a gentle shake. A pulse, a rhythmic, nauseating throb, as if something colossal was dragging itself closer, tunneling just below the surface. Then came the sound. A wet, sucking noise, like boots pulled from mud, accompanied by a chorus of chittering high-pitched, insectal, and wrong. It echoed from the trees, the river, the ground beneath our knees. Jason's eyes shot open, whites showing stark in the dim morning light. It's inside me, he rasped. His chest hitched violently, blood bubbling from his lips. It's crawling. I turned just in time to see it happen. His veins blackened beneath his skin, twisting like worms. His eyes rolled back. And then, with a convulsion that tore the silence to shreds, Jason's chest burst open, not with blood, not entirely, but with slick, writhing tendrils of that same oily black material we'd seen in the shaft. They writhed upward like obscene flowers blooming in the dawn. Ari screamed. Harper stumbled back, tripping over a root. Dr. Munro just froze, horror etched into every line of his face. Jason's mouth opened wide, impossibly wide, and a sound poured out, a shrill, keening wail that wasn't human. The tendrils shot skyward, convulsing violently, then snapped toward us. Run! I screamed. We didn't look back. The forest blurred past in streaks of shadow and light, branches slashing at our faces, roots clawing at our feet. Behind us, something enormous moved, branches snapping, ground splitting, a guttural roar building beneath the earth like the heartbeat of the world itself. We didn't stop until we saw the ranger station. It sat perched on the edge of a clearing, a squat building surrounded by trucks and utility sheds. The sight of it was almost surreal, like stumbling onto a mirage after days in the desert. For a moment, none of us moved. Then Harper bolted for the door. The ranger on duty, a young guy with a square jaw and sleepy eyes, barely had time to stand before Harper slammed the door open, screaming about evacuation, about something alive under the park, about faces in the rock and things that shouldn't exist. He stared at us like we were lunatics. "Ma'am, I think you need to calm." The floor shuddered violently. Lights flickered. From outside came the sound of splintering wood and the deep, resonant crack of the earth tearing itself open. The ranger's eyes widened. What the... The wall behind him exploded inward. It wasn't fire or rock or anything that could be explained by science. It was flesh. A mass of slick, undulating muscle and bone, shot through with veins of glowing amber. It writhed into the room, tendrils lashing like whips, dragging furniture, papers, people into its pulsing bulk. The ranger didn't even have time to scream. One tendril wrapped around his torso and pulled him into the wall, where he was absorbed with a sickening, wet crunch. His eyes stared at us from within the shifting mass for a split second before dissolving into the gore. Dr. Munro grabbed me, yanking me toward the back door. "Go! Go, go, go!" We stumbled into the parking lot, just as the building collapsed in on itself, the roof folding like wet cardboard. The screens from inside cut short in a single nauseating pop, and then the ground split open. The fissure tore through the asphalt like it was paper, heat and steam blasting upward, carrying with it the smell of rot and sulfur and something ancient. From the depths, something rose a shape too massive, too grotesque to comprehend in a single glance. Its body was a latticework of stone and flesh, its surface crawling with mouths that opened and closed soundlessly, its many limbs writhing in the sulphurous air. It wasn't just alive, it was awake. We ran for the trucks, tires screaming against the loose gravel as Harper floored the gas. The road twisted through the forest, trees whipping past in a green-brown blur, the roar of the engine drowned out by the cacophony of breaking earth and something vast moving just beneath us. Behind us, the forest collapsed. Entire swaths of trees vanished as the ground gave way, swallowed whole into the churning, pulsating void. Steam geysers erupted around us, showering the road with scalding water and chunks of blackened earth. Every mile felt like a miracle. Where are we even going? Ari screamed over the noise. "Out!" Harper yelled. "Anywhere but here." Dr. Munro sat rigid in the back seat, his hands trembling as he clutched his notebook to his chest. "It's not going to stop," he said, his voice barely audible. "This thing, it's older than the park, older than the continent. It was buried, and we woke it up. God help us, we woke it up." The road ahead cracked, a jagged fissure splitting the asphalt. Harper swerved, barely missing it, tires skidding dangerously close to the edge. My heart slammed against my ribs. And then, from the tree line, the smaller ones came. They were human-shaped, but barely. Their skin was pale, stretched thin over jutting bones, their eyes black and empty. They moved in jerks, like marionettes controlled by invisible strings, their heads lolling at unnatural angles. And they were fast. One lunged at the truck, slamming against the hood, its face pressed to the windshield. Its mouth opened wide, teeth shattering against the glass as it shrieked a sound that didn't belong in this world. Harper jerked the wheel, throwing the thing off, but more were coming pouring from the forest, swarming the road, their limbs bending in ways that made my stomach turn. "They're hurting us," Ari said, her voice trembling. "Oh God, they're hurting us." We didn't stop until we hit the edge of the park boundary, the Welcome to Yellowstone sign splintered and hanging by one rusted bolt. Beyond it, the road stretched toward civilization, toward safety, but when I looked back, my heart froze. The horizon was gone. In its place was a roiling mass of black and amber, a living tide that swallowed everything in its path trees. Rivers, mountains, everything consumed, digested, and remade into that impossible, writhing flesh. The ground shook so violently that the truck skidded sideways, tires barely gripping the asphalt. "It's spreading," Dr. Munro whispered. His voice was hollow. "It's not just under Yellowstone anymore." We drove through the morning, the world behind us collapsing into chaos. Emergency broadcasts filled the radio reports of tremors as far as Idaho. Strange sightings, entire towns disappearing overnight. The voice of the announcer cracked halfway through a sentence, replaced by static and a low, wet gurgling sound. By the time we reached the outskirts of the nearest town, the sky was the color of bruised flesh, heavy with ash and steam. People stood in the streets, staring toward the park, their faces slack and pale, like they were waiting for something. And then, all at once, they turned their heads toward us. Every single one of them. Their mouths opened in unison, a low, droning hum that rattled my teeth and curdled my blood. Harper slammed the brakes. "Oh, no, no, no." Dr. Munro looked at me, his eyes glassy and defeated. "It's not coming," he said. "It's already here." That night, as we huddled in the ruins of an abandoned gas station, I wrote this account by flashlight, the hum of the generators mixing with the distant, bone-deep sound of the earth shifting. I don't know if anyone will find this. I don't know if there's anywhere left to run. But I do know one thing. Yellowstone isn't dormant anymore. And what's living beneath it is hungry. This recording is only 6 minutes long. I found it 3 days after everything went black, buried in the wreckage of the ranger station near Mammoth Hot Springs. The walls were scorched, the ground warped, and the air tasted like sulfur and ash. But the satellite dish, miraculously, was still upright, blinking weakly in the dark. The voice on the tape is Dr. Tobias Munro's. If anyone hears this, it's too late. I think it was too late the moment we drilled through the first layer. We thought it was a cavern. It wasn't. It was a mouth, a wound, and we opened it. It's not just Yellowstone anymore. It's everywhere. Cracks under the highways, fissures under the lakes, the cities, God, the cities they don't even scream anymore. They just stop. It's learning. It doesn't just consume. It imitates. Faces in the walls, voices in the static. Sometimes I hear my own voice calling from the trees. If you're listening, don't go underground. Don't trust the quiet. Don't look at their faces. I can hear it now, beneath me, calling my name. God help us all. Then there's silence except for the hum. That same low, bone-deep hum that vibrates through the air, through the ground, through your teeth. When the sun rises, it's the wrong color. The sky is slicked and red, like an open wound. The trees aren't trees anymore. And every few minutes, the ground pulses, slow and steady, like a heart that will never stop beating. If anyone finds this, don't come here. Don't come home.